Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. You know, we love to go deep on all sorts of topics, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of self-evaluation.
That's right. We're going to be exploring an excerpt called The Art of Self-Evaluation, Mastering the Skill of Looking Inward.
Now, I've always thought of self-evaluation as just like making a list of your strengths and weaknesses, the good and the bad, and calling it a day.
Right.
But get this. Apparently, self-evaluation can actually help you boost your emotional intelligence and even help you achieve your big goals.
That's right. It's way more than just a simple checklist.
Wow. So this excerpt jumps right in and starts talking about looking inward, which,
Yeah.
sounds a bit like something you'd hear at a yoga retreat or something. But what does that actually mean, like in real life?
Well, you can kind of think of it like this. You know how when you look in a mirror, you see your reflection? Well, looking inward is like holding up a mirror to your true self, to your strengths, your weaknesses, even those little quirky behaviors we all have. It's about taking a good, honest look at all of that. The good, the bad, and you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like taking stock of your inner inventory.
That's a great way to put it.
But honestly, why bother? Why not just blissfully cruise through life without all this introspection?
Well, ignorance might seem blissful, but this excerpt actually makes a really compelling case for why looking inward is totally worth the effort.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay, so one of the biggest benefits is personal growth.
Okay.
Okay, you know, when you really know your strengths, you can actually use them to your advantage. And when you're aware of your weaknesses, you can actually come up with a plan to improve. It's like having a roadmap to becoming a better you.
So it's not just about figuring out where you need to improve.
Yeah.
It's about understanding how your strengths and weaknesses all kind of work together.
Yeah, it's about strategy.
I like it.
Yeah.
What else does this excerpt highlight?
Well, it also talks about emotional intelligence.
Okay. The more you understand your own emotions and how those emotions affect your choices, the better you'll become at navigating relationships, making decisions, and even dealing with those tricky situations that life throws your way.
It's like you're becoming your own emotional detective, figuring out the why behind your reactions.
Exactly.
But doesn't all this like deep thinking lead to just overthinking things and like analysis paralysis, where you just get stuck?
It can, yeah,
Yeah.
if you let it. But that's where the next benefit comes,
Oh,
accountability.
oh, okay.
The self-evaluation isn't about just dwelling on the negative. It's about taking ownership of your actions, both the good and the bad,
Hmm.
and learning from those experiences to make better choices in the future.
So it's about moving from blame and excuses to a place of personal power.
Exactly.
I love that. But how does all of this self-reflection stuff tie into my values? The things that are really important to me.
That's where it gets really interesting. You see, self-evaluation helps you figure out if your everyday actions are actually matching up with those core values.
Oh, it's about asking yourself, am I actually walking the walk or am I just talking the talk? And sometimes that can be a powerful wake-up call. It can push you to make changes and live a life that feels more authentic and fulfilling.
You know what? I'm convinced. So, okay, we get it. Self-evaluation is important. But how do we actually do it well?
Well, this excerpt actually outlines 6 steps to make self-evaluation more effective.
6 steps.
Yeah, the first step is all about creating a quiet space for reflection.
So ditch the phone,
Mm.
close the laptop,
Mm.
find a quiet corner.
Exactly. You need to minimize those distractions so you can really focus.
Got it. What's next?
Step 2 is about asking yourself the right questions, the kind of questions that really make you think.
Give me an example.
Sure, like what are your top 3 strengths? What are you truly grateful for? What's one thing you wish you could change? These questions are like shining a light on the things you might not normally notice about yourself.
It's like holding up that mirror again. But this time you're looking for specific things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so step 3. And wouldn't you know it? Mindfulness. Everyone's talking about mindfulness these days. But how does it fit into this whole self-evaluation thing?
Well, think of mindfulness as a way to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. You're not trying to change anything, you're just noticing what's going on inside.
Oh, I see.
It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths and just tuning into your body or paying attention to your inner monologue.
It's like you're becoming an observer of your own mind.
Exactly. And that can be really helpful when it comes to step 4, which is journaling.
Journaling, my favorite.
When you combine journaling with mindfulness, you start to see patterns and gain a deeper understanding of what's driving your behavior.
Okay, so journaling. It's like having a conversation with yourself, but on paper.
I like that, a written conversation with yourself.
So what's step 5?
Well, step 5 is about getting an outside perspective by asking for feedback from others. Sometimes we're just too close to the situation to see things clearly, and a trusted friend or mentor or colleague can often offer insights that we might miss.
It's like getting a fresh pair of eyes on the situation.
Exactly.
I know for me, sometimes I really need someone to point out my blind spots because I just don't see them myself.
Yeah, we all have blind spots.
Speaking of blind spots, though, how do we avoid being like overly critical of ourselves during this whole self-evaluation process? I mean, it's easy to get down on yourself, right?
That's where step 6 comes in. Acknowledge both your strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
This is about striving for a balanced view. It's great to celebrate your wins, but it's equally important to acknowledge areas where you can grow.
Yeah.
Remember, self-evaluation isn't about beating yourself up. It's about understanding yourself better.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the 6 steps to effective self-evaluation, but how do we actually make this a part of our, like our daily lives? Because life gets busy.
It really does. But that's why it's so important to make it a habit and not just something we do like once a year.
Right, so it's less New Year's resolution and more daily ritual.
Exactly. And the excerpt suggests starting small with those daily reflections. Just taking a few minutes every day to think about your actions and decisions, even those little moments that triggered like a strong emotion.
So it's kind of like checking in with yourself. Instead of scrolling through my phone before bed, maybe I could spend 5 minutes reflecting on my day.
That's a great idea. And to make those reflections even more powerful, you can ask yourself some specific questions like, what went well today? What could I have done differently? How am I feeling right now? And why? Things like that.
Those are really good questions. It's amazing how a few simple questions can really help you understand yourself better.
Right. And you can also incorporate prompts like that into your existing routines. If you already journal or meditate, you can just add in a few self-evaluation questions.
I love that idea. It's like working smarter, not harder. But let's be honest, sometimes those good intentions kind of fizzle out after a while. How do we stay consistent with self-evaluation?
Well, it's like any habit. The key is consistency. The more you practice self-evaluation, the easier it becomes. Think of it like exercising a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
So it's not about being perfect. It's just about showing up consistently, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Exactly. Progress over perfection. Celebrate those small wins. Embrace the journey.
It's been so eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of self-evaluation and why it matters.
Me too. It's been really fascinating. We've talked about what self-evaluation is, why it's important, and how to do it well. We even talked about some of those challenges we all face and how to overcome them.
But as you always say, there's always more to learn.
That's right. That's what the deep dive is all about, sparking curiosity and encouraging people to keep exploring.
So before we wrap up, what's one final thought-provoking question we can leave our listeners with? Something to really make them think about the impact of self-evaluation.
Okay, well, we've talked a lot about the personal benefits of self-evaluation, but how might this practice affect not only your personal life, but also your professional development and your career?
Wow, that's a great question. It really makes you think about how self-awareness can impact so many different areas of your life.
Exactly. How might regular self-evaluation influence your career choices, your leadership style, your relationships with your colleagues?
That is fascinating and definitely something I'm going to be thinking about as I continue on my own self-evaluation journey.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong practice. And the more we invest in it, the more benefits we'll see, both personally and professionally.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the art of self-evaluation. We hope you found it valuable and inspiring.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, the journey of self-discovery never really ends. So keep exploring, keep reflecting, and keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
I love that.
Until next time, happy diving. It's really amazing how much we've learned about self-evaluation in this deep dive. It's so much more than just a quick glance in the mirror.
It really is. It's a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah, and it can transform your life.
Absolutely. And we've just scratched the surface.
I know, right? The best part is that it's a journey you can keep going on even after we're done here.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing conversation with yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
And you never know what you might discover.
Exactly.
We've talked about some of the challenges too, like dealing with those biases and facing our fears. And oh man, that perfectionism thing.
Oh yeah, perfectionism can be a real struggle.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me is that Self-evaluation isn't about being judgmental or critical.
Yeah,
It's about understanding yourself better
I completely agree.
so we can grow and evolve and live a more fulfilling life.
Well said. And you don't have to do this alone. Reach out to those trusted friends and mentors, or even a therapist. They can offer support and guidance along the way.
It's so helpful to have that outside perspective.
It really is.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just can't see things clearly on our own.
So true. Well, we've covered the what, the why, and even the how of self-evaluation. But before we wrap up, I have one last question for you.
Go for it.
If you could give our listeners just one piece of advice, one golden nugget to take away from this deep dive, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But I think the most important thing is to approach self-evaluation with curiosity and compassion.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions, but remember to be kind to yourself in the process. Celebrate the progress, embrace those imperfections, and just trust that you're always evolving.
Beautiful. That's a reminder we could all use a little more often. Well, it's time for us to surface from this deep dive, but we hope you'll keep exploring self-discovery long after this episode ends.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
And remember, keep asking those meaningful questions. Keep reflecting and keep striving to be the best version of yourself.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, happy diving.